bill, however flawed it might be. Nobody is interested in passing the bill for grievance redress. They're all pending. Why? Because political parties have a similar interest.
So, Dr. Singh, you're saying bringing political parties under the RTI Act will be the answer to all of these problems. It will help clean up the system.
I'm saying it's the only answer we have. I would much prefer if all these things were under the Representation of People Act, the Income Tax Act. But can you really believe that when they are not willing to come under RTI, they're going to amend the Representation of People Act to come under that?
The question of unaccounted for wealth. There is a lot of money being circulated during election time. Nobody knows where it comes from, where it goes.
Absolutely. Not only wealth, expenditure. We've had Mr. Munde say publicly that he spent 20 times the limit. He's a respected political leader. And why nobody is very agitated is because they all know everybody does that. Now, is this all right? Are we willing to live with this? And what is the answer? Raise the level. They say, raise the official level. You can raise it to whatever level you like. If you have an advantage, if you spend more, you're going to spend more. State funding of elections. You can bring in state funding. If I know that if I spend over and above what the state gives me, I have an advantage, I'll spend over and above what the state gives me. So what is the answer? I would say the answer is only this. And it's not the best answer. I'm not even arguing that if it comes under RTI overnight, problems will get solved. But I don't see any other answers. Let the people then be innovative. Let them find ways. And I agree here with Dr. Ansari that even now without they're coming under the RTI Act, ways will be found to make them answerable. In fact, we have suggested a three-step action plan if this amendment comes in. One is to challenge them in the court of law.
Okay, I'll come back to your action plan. We'll discuss it in greater detail. Dr. Ansari, but do you think the RTI by its design, it is going to, its coverage of political parties, it is going to solve all our problems? Because we understand it's something that is designed for the bureaucracy, for the banner.
No, this is what I have been arguing. Transparency, yes, there has to be. But bringing them under the present RTI Act, the certain provisions are not applicable. I mean, they do not essentially capture the activities of the political parties, and therefore, what I said was Section 4, disclosure clause, and Section 8, that is exemption clauses. Much of it is not applicable. And if it is not applicable to the political parties, then it will be very difficult to catch them and seek accountability from them. And therefore, certain other provisions which I mentioned that under Section 2F they can be accessed, are the donors could be asked, the donors, if they happen to be the public authority, to also give the details, the purpose for which they have given and what has been the outcome, etc. That can be asked. But the other relevant aspect is that why have we allowed the political parties not to disclose any collection below 20,000, because that is the major chunk of their collection. So if the RTI application can be filed with 10 rupees in the form of a draft or postal order, why can't we say that let them also collect in the form of a draft of 10 rupees or 20 rupees, whatever, and rather than giving them a leeway of collecting money below 20,000, which comes to 80,000. I mean, everybody understands what is all going on, but why are we not making, talking plain truth, about the whole thing? And I think it is possible. It is possible. Make all the collections by the political parties through only checks, draft, or through the postal order, or whatever the mechanism, that you eliminate the cash transaction, because this is where our financial accounting procedure has also been changing, that all the transactions are being made through the banks and through the accounts, so that one knows where the money comes from and where it goes. So why are we allowing in our economy?
I am completely in agreement with what Dr. Ansari said towards last concluding remarks, because there are various other ways we have to look at. We have to stop our cash and carry economy, the way we function. We have to have these transactions formalized and in the formal economy. And repeatedly, all of us have been referring to this below 20,000 contribution. It should be made mandatory, statutorily mandatory, that all contributions are declared to the Election Commission, those details which anyway under the existing rules will be available to the public. So there are various ways of doing it, rather than insisting upon the fact that, and also perhaps I think what we are losing perspective at some levels here, it would be when we talk about transparency, of political functioning, I think focus will have to be on the financial and economic aspect of it. Because if we get into why a political party adopts a certain policy or why do they have a particular candidate, I think those are already matters of intense public debate. Because for example, a party that may not have sufficient representation of Dalits, that party comes under intense scrutiny. Those issues are debated. Okay, why there are no women? Every election, without any question under RTI, these issues are being debated, questioned and discussed, and all parties, I think, have been explaining or tried to explain, defend their position vis-a-vis women, tribals. All kind of policies that they take are matters of public scrutiny. The candidate selection is a matter of public scrutiny. I think by focusing on bringing that under a formalized mechanism of seeking information and getting information, I think we are slightly deflecting from the original objective that we set out to achieve.
Right.
Because I completely agree with both of my esteemed co-panelists that the way our political parties function, our elections function, and the administration of election function actually needs very, very thorough overhauling. But when we insist upon the RT,
one part of Mr. Verghese argument, if I have not misunderstood him, is this, that these issues like why are women not being given enough representation are already being debated.
Right.
But the point is, so was corruption already being debated. Is this a debate based on knowledge or is it not? RTI or transparency helps the debate to become more focused on real.
Right. In fact, RTI has helped expose a number of scams.
Because earlier they would say whatever they liked and there was no backing. That's number one. Number two, I think Dr. Ansari's point is very relevant, and he's made this more than once, that look, these are not records that they're required to keep, so they won't keep them. So what is the point? My point is, this was so, why are the political parties worried? If they didn't have any problems that they would have been, then why are they getting worried? They are far more intelligent. They understand that once they start being asked questions, even a reply saying we don't have these records is a damning reply.
Okay.
Even a reply saying we have no recorded basis for a decision is a damning reply. And this will open them up to public ridicule. So I am arguing that RTI is not toothless even in its present form. Third point quickly I want to make is the same arguments that Dr. Ansari is talking about vis-a-vis RTI Act and political parties also apply to NGOs, also apply to other bodies which come as public authorities under 2H. For years the NGOs were being covered, nobody said anything. Now because political parties have come, there's a huge furor about it. So that's the third point I want to make. And the final point I want to make here is simply this, that I have said right in the beginning, I much prefer, as Mr. Verghese says, if these matters got covered under the Income Tax Act
or the Representation of People's Act.
But believe me, that is much less likely to happen. Can you believe the political parties coming together in this atmosphere and saying, okay, let us become more vulnerable and transparent to people through the election commission. So let us
So this is the easier way out for transparency seekers.
for the moment. And then we'll move towards that.
Okay, on that note, we slip into yet another break in the program. Stay with us. We'll be back with the final segment of the show.
It violates the principle of equality before the law. If you have NGOs, other bodies which are substantially funded and they are under the RTI, then what's so special about political parties? So that's one. Secondly, in one of the orders of the Supreme Court holding that the right to information is a fundamental right, the Supreme Court held that as it's a fundamental right, subject only to reasonable restrictions.
Okay.
So we are going to challenge the government to tell us how do they argue that the exclusion of the political party, even intelligence agencies like RAW and IB are not totally excluded.
Okay.
There, as he mentioned earlier, allegations of corruption and allegations of human rights violation are there, and unofficially the argument is that on national interest they have to do shady deals, which we don't want to come under this. Now, are we saying political parties are even shadier than RAW and IB and therefore need to be totally excluded? So that's one action plan. Action plan number 2, and this again Ansari Sahab hinted, we are now setting up a relay system by which at least those elements of political leaders who remain under the RTI, MLAs, MPs, ministers, we are going to now use the RTI very extensively and every single one of their actions, we will not have to wait till the Rajya Sabha suddenly decides that there has been a scandal about LTC. Let a person even apply for LTC and it will be in the public domain on a real time. So that's number 2. Huge scrutiny of political leaders. And number 3, there is this danger, as I mentioned, that political parties get together. How do we break that? How do the people of India divide and rule their so-called political masters? We are now going to give a call that any come across an anti-people legislation or act, let us boycott that ruling party. And let the ruling party then think twice that though everybody else is going to get the benefit, I'm going to have to pay the price. That will make them think twice. So this is our action plan.
Okay, but Verghese, we discussed how, presently there is this perception that everything that is going wrong, all the corruption is to be blamed on political parties, and there is a general trust deficit that exists between the political class and the general public. Don't you think the passage of this particular bill, if these amendments get through, is only going to perpetuate the existing trust deficit?
Certainly. Certainly. I think if they actually go and pass this bill, this will add further to the perception that political parties are against transparency, they are trying to block information, and they are indeed one when it comes to and preventing and transparency measures. And that is precisely the reason why a couple of MPs who have, or a couple of parties I would say, maybe parties would be an overstatement, against amendment that is being sought to be made, have raised it on this basis that already there is a perception among the public that political parties are not transparent enough and they are corrupt, and by doing this thing we will actually perpetuate and in fact amplify that perception. So having said that, I don't think, again I would emphasize my point, I think people like public spirited people like Professor Singh and other people, when they carry out this campaign, I personally would like to focus this campaign on the funding of elections and how political parties do mobilize fund and spend it, rather than trying to ask them a question, okay, why did you decide to protect the corrupt minister? Why did it take, for example, 1 year before A. Raja was sacked? I don't think it is going to elicit any information other than saying that we don't have a record of that. So maybe as he rightly said, to some extent that will bring some public ridicule to that absence of that process. But much more can be achieved by even the fact that he mentioned about one political party got 44,000 per voter, the way they fudge accounts to show that. So as I said, there are multiple ways of doing it. I am not particularly obsessed with bringing political parties under RTI. I have no ideological opposition to that thing, and I would emphasize and conclude with the point that the focus of this debate and attempts will have to be bringing financial transparency into the functioning of political parties and our conduct of elections.
Okay, so Dr. Ansari, clearly asking political parties to open up their financial books is not the answer. We must look at the larger picture. We must push for the long pending electoral reforms.
That I entirely agree with you, because all that we are trying to achieve is to make sure that there is electoral reform, especially the manner in which the elections are funded in the whole country. But here I would like to say that we have been very proudly claiming that we have a very any attempt is made by either the political parties or any other class to withhold certain information and to come in the way of transparency, that will be a blot on our democracy, because transparency being the critical elements of democracy, if from any section of the society, particularly the political parties which have a pervasive impact on the governance and in the formation of the government, in the running of the government, then I think that will be a major blot. That is number one. Number two, I would say that as we expect in any public authority, the functioning of the public authority, that we seek information how a secretary is appointed, how the members of the various commissions are appointed, or how the people are recruited. Likewise, we need to also have internal democracy within the parties, which is unfortunately had been missing in the whole lot. And these are all somehow or other interrelated with the various activities. So I would say that when we are talking of transparency in the political parties, is a very much important a part of the vibrant democracy. And if any attempt is made to withhold certain information, or to hide certain information, or to promote the culture of secrecy with which this country has been living for so long, that will be, I think, a major obstacle in further carrying out the democratic process in the whole country.
Okay, Dr. Singh, I'll give you the last word. Why not push for electoral reforms? Why not, address the issue of black money during elections? Because this at best may end up just embarrassing political parties and their leaders.
But it is that embarrassment which will give us the basis to push for electoral reforms and for the other things you're saying. If they don't feel any pain, they're not going to move in that direction. When they start feeling the pain, then they'll get pushed. So this is not the end of our battle, it's just the beginning.
All right, on that note, it's time for me to wrap up this discussion here. I'd like to thank all my guests for coming to the studios. It was a pleasure having you all here. That's it for now in this edition of Insight. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.